Sometimes it's hard to make time to do the things we love. This is the Charity Shop Speed Run.
Get hit us! Do the game Rush tricks!
Like
Get your head!
Hello again folks and welcome to a very special episode. That's because today we are doing a speed run. Now speed runs in gaming are nothing new, but today we are doing something slightly different. Speedrunning charity shops. That's because recently I had just 60 minutes to kill in Cambridge. Thankfully, Burley Street in Cambridge is absolutely stacked with charity shops. Numerous charity shops next door to each other, which meant I could hit up loads of charity shops over the course of 60 minutes. And today we are charity shop speed hunting. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and please subscribe. So I put new videos out every Saturday night at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week, and I really want you folks along for the ride. Now, time's ticking. Let's start the speed run. Here we go then, the clock is ticking and the speed run has started as we head into our first charity shop here at the top of the road. And straight away, we're finding, which probably won't be of interest to most people, something I'm always on the lookout for, designer clothes. And I love Fred Perry shirts. I wear these to work most days, and honestly, more often than not, charity shops are the best places to find these cheap. And here is something you will find in every charity shop here in the UK, guaranteed, one of these meerkats. I'm sure everyone owns at least one of these once in their lives. But we ain't got time to sit around thinking about meerkats. We're into our next charity shop and straight to the DVD section, because more often than not you can find some decent box sets in DVD sections such as this to flip into CEX, that sweet in-store credit, but unfortunately not this time. But we're always on the lookout for video games, either to add to the collection or to flip, but unfortunately this Guitar Hero World Tour, while it used to hold a bit of value, doesn't really anymore, so I did leave it behind. But this one I'm picking up for the collection, Operation Flashpoint CD-ROM, £1. An absolute bargain, and honestly, it's quite rare these days to see PCC-ROM games. On to our next charity shop, and much like meerkats, here is something we are seeing more and more in charity shops: Funko Pop vinyls. Now, a majority of these are pretty worthless, so I did leave that one behind, but once again, we're finding some very nice designer clothes in this next charity shop. Vivian Westwood, very posh charity shops here in Cambridge. I did decide to leave this one behind as it was a little bit worn, and honestly, I'm trying to save some of my budget for games rather than clothes. Couple of meters down the road and we're on to our next charity shop at the British Red Cross, and once again we have some clothes in here and something quite interesting: all of these Wimbledon t-shirts. Now, I have no idea if these were very valuable, so I did leave them behind, but is there a market for Wimbledon branded clothing? I have no idea, so obviously I did pass and headed straight to the next charity shop just across the road, Cancer Research UK. And in here we're in much more familiar territory with some video games. Not a great selection. I did see a copy of Call of Duty Ghosts, but I wasn't sure how much this was, as none of the games in here had prices on the games because it was on the shelf, all console games £3. So somewhat unsurprisingly for the price, I did decide to leave that behind, and the DS shovelware. But in the same charity shop, I was pleasantly surprised to find some vintage WWF wrestling figures. Now, I'm actually surprised how uncommon it is for me to find any wrestling figures in charity shops. This is something I would have expected to find in charity shops a lot more often. But honestly, I think this is the first time in 2025 I've found any wrestling figures in store. Now, I did decide to leave one of these figures behind for fairly obvious reasons, but I did pick two of these up, £3 each for 20-something-year-old wrestling figures in decent condition like this. A fantastic find. I think this is the final piece of clothing in this video, so please stay tuned. This retro Adidas raincoat was kind of tempting. It was retro, it was vintage, it was pretty cool, but it was 20 quid, so I did leave it behind. Now, of course, today we are on a strict time limit and the clock is still ticking, but I would be remiss if I paid a visit to Cambridge and didn't pay a visit to Forbidden Planet. It is one of my favourite stores to visit when I'm in Cambridge, and check out the selection of nerdy and geeky memorabilia in stock here. Let's take a closer look what's in store. It really doesn't take long to find something cool here at Forbidden Planet with these Star Wars Black Series helmets. Now, I'm a massive fan of these. I already have 4 in my collection, being Mandalorian themed, and there's another 2 here today which are very tempting. What I love about Forbidden Planet is I always find things in here I've never seen before. Like these miniature Fallout statues, figures. They're really cool, whatever you class them as. I've never seen these before and instantly wanted them for the collection. But I'm more on the fence with these new D&D monster manuals and Dungeon Masters guides. I just feel the artwork on these isn't quite up to par to the last release. But if you're a D&D player, Forbidden Planet definitely has you sorted with rule books. Check out this massive selection here. Speaking of books, around 50% of Forbidden Planet is books, graphic novels, comics. It's like a nerd library of paradise. There's so many books here, including brand new release comics. It's always cool to browse these and see what comics are getting a new release. And of course, yep, there's Funko Pops, even though this TMNT Last Ronin one was pretty cool. But when it comes to books at Forbidden Planet, this section is always my favourite, the art book section, because you can get some absolutely beautiful video game art books here, and this time was no different. You can see Assassin's Creed Shadow, Elden Ring, this Sea of Thieves art book, which I've never seen before. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a price on it. I was very tempted by this one, but honestly, if you're a video game art book fan like myself, get yourself to Forbidden Planet. But without fail, on every visit to Forbidden Planet, I always check out the sales section because you can get some absolute bargains in here. And how is this for a bargain? A TMNT Mutant Mayhem figure, brand new, for just £2. Yep, I'm definitely picking that up, but I'm not so sure about these TMNT ducks. Not really something I need. Now, I absolutely love Hot Toys, don't get me wrong, but wow, they have a high price. I think these Fallout statues behind were way more my kind of price range for figures. One final look in Forbidden Planet at this week's comic book releases, and this was cool. This Stranger Things D&D crossover, and of course, my personal favourite, the Turtles. But oh my, would you look at the time. We only have just over 20 minutes left to charity shop hunt, and I'm sorry, one last clothing find here I just couldn't leave behind for £10, this barber shirt. Our next charity shop is Oxfam, and this is a large charity shop. 2 stories, but we're heading upstairs because that's where all the books, homeware and CDs, and more importantly DVDs and hopefully games are. And you can see it's a fairly large media section here, and I'm hoping we can find something cool here. It doesn't take us long to find something cool. This Tintin box set right here, and I'm sure this used to trade in for some decent trading at CEX, but unfortunately not anymore, so of course I left it behind. Now of course time is not in our favour this time, if you excuse the pun, and I was really gutted I didn't have more time to dig through these massive baskets of graphic novels. I'm sure there was some absolute hidden gems hiding, once again, excuse the pun, in these baskets, but for today we just didn't have the time to dig through these, which was a real shame, as it looked like there was some really good retro comics in here, and honestly, I have a real soft spot for 2000 AD, especially for around the year 2000. Just a short walk across the road is our next charity shop, Sense, and somewhat surprisingly, this charity shop also had a fairly large amount of graphic novels, including this Batman comic, quite ironically from Forbidden Planet, which was selling it for $14.99, and here in a charity shop for $9.99. Now, I never knew there was such a thing as Conan Marvel comics. But it turns out there are a lot of them. Not that one, but most of the graphic novels in this charity shop were all Conan. Like loads of them, like shelves of them. There were so many. I guess somebody either really liked Conan and decided to get rid of their whole collection, or decided they hated it and got rid of their whole collection. Now this is probably the longest distance on this road between charity shops. It's around 50 or 60 metres to our next stop, the British Heart Foundation. And while they did have a very small amount of games in here, there was nothing we needed. And of course, being the British Heart Foundation, they were ever so slightly overpriced. We are very quickly running out of time for our charity shop hunt today, and this was a genuine surprise to see a retro clothing store on a street like this, because normally these stores will simply suck up all of the retro clothing from the surrounding stores, but of course if we've seen today there was still loads around. But our final find of the day's not retro clothing is this Avatar steelbook. Sadly not worth trading to CX, but cool to see. And as the last few seconds tick away, that was our final charity shop of the day. And in the last few seconds, we come to the first of 2 bonus stops at the end of a day of charity shop hunting. The first of which being Game Inside Sports Direct here in Cambridge. Now, I have had a game voucher burning a hole in my pocket for months now, because I'm determined to spend this voucher in store and not have to pay £5 for postage. But a lot of the prices of games, ironically in-game, are very, very high. It's very hard to find a good deal. The only thing I was slightly tempted by was these D&D figures, but these are so cheap online at the moment, I might as well just jump online and buy the whole set at around £3 each. I decided I'd done so well on my charity shop speedrun, we would treat ourselves to a little trip to the local branch of CEX, and straight away in the window, this was super cool to see. This collector's edition of God of War definitely gets my thumbs up. Now, there was a little bit of retro here in the window at Cambridge CEX, but unfortunately, most of this was in quite rough condition. So if you are doing a CEX roulette, I'd recommend not picking these titles up from Cambridge CEX. But fear not, there was more retro in store here, including a very nice copy of Castlevania for the N64. If I had a slightly bigger budget today, or even better, a slightly bigger CEX voucher, that one would have been coming home with me. That was in really good condition. But overall, I would say there was a fairly decent collection of retro here at Cambridge CEX, including a lot of decent PS1 games, this being a highlight, this Neo Geo controller. It was also pretty good to see a reasonably large selection of Wii U games, but unfortunately, it seems like the reprinted covers have also found their way to Wii U games, which is a real shame, as it's getting increasingly hard to find Wii U games, which I still need for my collection. I'm still trying to find a copy of that Pokken Tournament with the Mewtwo card. I don't know why CEX even list it as having the Mewtwo card. I don't think I've ever seen a copy of that anywhere in any CEX store or online which actually comes with that Mewtwo card, but it was cool to see some Wii U. I cannot believe I'm still finding Xbox 360 games I have never heard of, even though I don't think I'll be rushing to add this Kinect game to my collection. Nice little bit of Xbox 360 cardboard with Halo Anniversary Edition in really nice condition. One I already have in my collection, so I did leave it behind for the next collector. Comment down below if you've actually played Suicide Squad. The fall off of this game should be studied. I cannot believe that today you can go into CEX and pick up this game for the PlayStation 5 for just £6, but is it worth it? On the opposite end of the scale, does anyone know why Battle for Middle-earth 2 on PC CD-ROM is a £20 game in CEX? I'm guessing this is the only way to play this in 2025. Final find here in a PlayStation 4 section, Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. I was very tempted to pick this up as recently for the Down to Games Man podcast game club, we played Turnip Boy Robs the Bank and I absolutely loved it. So comment down below if I now need to play this one. Final shot here of Cambridge CEX. Behind the counter we have the high-end retro and modern games, including a copy of Rule of Rose, which seemingly is in every CEX store all around the country. But more interestingly, something I've never seen before in CEX, this copy of Stalker 2. Very cool indeed. There we have it then, folks. That was our charity shop speedrun. It goes to show you don't need the biggest amount of time to hunt. Let's run back to the games room for the pickups. Here we are then, back in the games room from our charity shop speedrun in Cambridge, and that was an intense 60 minutes. Whew, time for a breather. And of course, over those 60 minutes, we managed to find some awesome items for the collection in 60 minutes or less. Now, of course, whenever you're charity shop hunting, it does all come down to luck and what you find on any given day. And I'm not going to bore you with the large amount of really nice designer clothing I managed to pick up from some of those charity shops in Cambridge. It is a fantastic place to shop for designer labels at really cheap prices, whether for your own wardrobe or to flip on eBay. And especially this time of year, it's fantastic to hunt for clothes in charity shops because all of the students are going home for summer. But back to more kind of regular programming here on the channel. We did manage to pick up one game this time. Operation Flashpoint Cold War Crisis, the Gold Edition PC CD-ROM. And I will always pick up these PC CD-ROM games if I see them in the wild, if they're fairly cheap. This one was just £1 because I'm a big fan of retro PC gaming, and eventually, somewhere down the line, I'm going to set up my dream retro PC, and of course for that I'm going to need a lot of PC CD-ROM games. Our next pickup from Cambridge was definitely a welcome surprise and not something I was expecting to find in a random charity shop. These WWF Jakks Pacific figures. These are from the Attitude Era, and some of the likenesses of these wrestlers are a little bit questionable. So this one is fairly obviously the Big Show, even though that hairline is a little bit questionable, and I think this one is Triple H, with once again a lot more hair than he has now. Now the main reason I picked these figures up is because they are both Tron ready figures. So I have the Titantron Live playset. You essentially place these figures on the playset and it plays their entrance music. It is one of my favourite subsets of wrestling figures to pick up, so when I saw both of these for £3 each, I knew I had to grab them. We're keeping it toy themed with our final pickup this time from Forbidden Planet, this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem Wingnut figure, and this was an absolute bargain, and this is why it's always worth checking the clearance sections of Forbidden Planet. Just $1.99, and yes, this does say sold as seen, but I have no idea if anything's wrong with this. There's nothing I can notice. It's complete and in surprisingly good condition because I was late to the party collecting these figures. At first, I wasn't entirely sold on these, but over time I've grown to love this style of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And whilst I am late to the party, at least that means more often than not, like this one, I can pick these figures up super cheap. There we have it then, folks. That was a charity shop speedrun in Cambridge. The perfect place to do a speedrun, as it has so many charity shops in close proximity. But comment down below if your local town or city has an area like Cambridge with this many charity shops in the same area. Let me know, and who knows, maybe I'll be doing a speedrun in your local town or city really soon. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and as always, keep playing the game. See you soon.